Hey y'all, it's David Ducker coming back at you, and today we're going to be talking about describing your character. This is something that's come up in the OSG several times recently. People talking about descriptions being too long, too much detail, things that we don't need to know, things that slow the pace of the game down. And I strongly disagree with that perspective. I think it's incredibly important that you can see the world through the eyes of your character, that you know everything they know or should know so they can make a decision. So you can make a decision in character doing what they would be doing. What they see can provide subtext. Subtext is very important. The context is what's happening immediately, right in front of you, what they're saying to you, where they're going, what they're doing. And you definitely need to describe those things. That's the basis of the game, but the subtext is what could shade into that. It's one thing if a man, leans out of an alleyway and beckons to you, says, "Yeah, come over here, friend, I have to talk to you." What that man looks like might, majorly determine if you decide to follow him down a dark alley or not. Right down to his race, his height, his age, his gender, or her gender, of course, what they're wearing. They look like they're trying to dress up, but they don't have the expensive jewelry. Is this a disguise? Do they look a little poor and bedraggled, yet they're a little bit too clean for that to be pulled off? They have perfect teeth, even though they have rags on their body. They have no scabs, no scars, no pock marks. They're fat. Why is this man dressed as a beggar, looking fat? That's probably a disguise. Or if you're at the tournament, a knight who's wearing brand new armor versus one who's wearing older armor. Does he have dwarf plate? Does he have human mail? Does he have elven scale armor? What kind of sword does he have? Is it heavier, lighter? How elaborately is it decorated and embellished? What kind of horse is he riding? Someone riding a Roundcy or Jenner is probably a little poorer. Or if he has a courser or a destrier, he's richer. And a courser and a destrier that could show that he's hard hitting. He values power, strength, size. If he's a short guy, maybe he has a Napoleon complex. If he's riding a courser, which is about equal in status to a destrier, they're equally expensive. But if he's riding a courser, he values speed, maneuverability, quickness of action, quickness of mind, perhaps. And if he's a larger, dumb-looking guy, the fact that he's riding a courser, that might mean there's more to him than meets the eye. Either he's smarter than he looks, or he's stolen that courser from someone. And you can just get so much out of this. And for your character, again, how they interact. It's not just something that might come into play in terms of the plot, in terms of a disguise, a trick, a history revealed. But even to say, well, how does my character approach women that's differently from men? How does he approach old people that's different from young people? How does he approach someone taller, shorter? Do I have a Napoleon complex? Am I judgmental if this person is overweight or underweight? If he's muscular, will I comment on that? Will I be walking around flexing, trying to stick my chest out because I'm lacking in confidence, or because I need to show that I'm not intimidated? You know, so the description of your characters is so important in how you approach them. I think we've all had moments in game where we said, "Oh, if I'd known he looked like that, I never would have talked to him this way. Oh, if I'd known he was wearing armor and holding a longsword, I never would have called him a chump and tried to kick him in the balls, because he has a codpiece." And that didn't do anything. And, I left my armor at home, so I'm in trouble now. Or if you're talking to, I've had characters who was a merchant, a character that was a merchant, and the party came through, and whether it was my description or they weren't paying attention, or they didn't ask for prompts, but they thought he was like a low level merchant when actually he was incredibly rich and powerful. He was one of the 7 merchant princes of Marienburg, one of the 7 richest men in Marienburg. And they treated him like just some low-level chump, like maybe who owned his own ship, but wasn't worth dealing with for their noble house. This was our Game of Thrones campaign. And, I'm sure for those characters, it probably didn't matter because they were so chivalrous. They really would treat him the same no matter what he's worth. But for a lot of characters, talking to a very, very rich man and talking to like just a merchant who's struggling to get by, the way you talk to him is very, very different. The things you bring up, the topics, what you ask of them, what you expect of them, the respect you show, the leniency in their quirks and foibles will be very different. And you can get all that out of a description. You don't need to talk to the guy and have him tell you, oh, I'm extremely wealthy. He's walking around with cloth of gold and silk and orichalcum jewels with rubies and sapphires. He's got fur trimmed on his mantle and his hat. He has, slaves following him around, and the slaves are wearing silk and they're fanning him and like feeding him grapes, and he's got a chest full of ice for his drink. He has ogre bodyguards imported from the north, these 12-foot tall bodyguards, and even they are wearing, at least cotton. It would be a real waste to put silk on an ogre, but but at least he's got some cotton on them, which is a higher level than linen or the peasant burlap or anything like that. So you can just describe the scene, what they see. They can, a picture's worth 1,000 words. So they can take that and use that to their advantage. Use that to feed and fuel their role-playing fire. And again, a picture's worth 1,000 words, but sometimes it does take 1,000 words to set that picture up. But I think it's well worth it for the depth of role-playing that you're going to get out of it. So I'd always recommend, when you're a player, describe your character fully, and fully means their ethnicity, their race, their species, whatever you want to call that, their height, their build, their hair color, their eye color, their age. Age is so important. A lot of people forget it, miss out on it, skip on it. But age is a tremendous thing for the character. To say, is he naive? Is he inexperienced? Is he unusually experienced for his age? Has he had children yet? Are his parents still alive? A lot of these things can be inferred based on age. A 90-year-old man, he's probably been married. He's probably had kids. He's probably seen his parents die. He's probably had siblings that passed away. He's seen a lot. And you can talk to him, you can ask advice from that man in a totally different way than you would for a 14-year-old character. So yes, as a player, set the example both for the others at the table and for the GM to say, this is my character in detail, this is what he's wearing, and that gives hints about where he's been, about his personality, what his equipment is, so what his capabilities and training could be. So just go down the list, from the top to the bottom. What do you see when you look at this person? And for a GM, you should be doing this as well. You should definitely be doing this for major NPCs. And, minor NPCs might need less detail, maybe, but it's still really helpful to throw that out. Because you can exposit on the world by the people that are in the world. If I run into somebody in Ostermark or Ostland, let's say Ostland, and they're wearing fur, they have a quiver of blunted arrows hooked onto their belt, but they don't have a bow in evidence. Of course, they have a dagger, but what kind? A Basilard, a Rondel dagger, a Bullock's dagger. Let's say he has a Bullock's dagger. Does he have a beard? Is he clean shaven? Let's say he's bearded. He's gruff. His skin is very rough from the sun, from the wind. He has some scars on him. The coarse black hair, which could hint at his ethnic origin. Maybe he's not pure Imperial, but he has some Kislevite ancestry. What kind of shoes does he have? Are his shoes muddy? Are his pants muddy? Maybe he has mud stains on the knees of his leather breeches. And you can say, oh, he's been kneeling somewhere. He could have a backpack on him, pouches clipped over his belt, maybe a flint and steel, maybe like a smoke bundle just smoldering away in his backpack. So this man's ready to start a fire anytime he needs to. His hands are huge and rough and scarred, and got dirt under his fingernails. So you can learn a lot about that guy, and you start to think, oh, before I even talk to him, I can think, oh, this is his ethnicity. And let's not forget age. Let's say he's 45 years old, or he looks that old. He might be younger, but he's so weathered he looks old. So you can say, oh, he's probably like a fur trapper, and he's got some Kislevite heritage, so maybe lower class. He's got the blunted arrows, so maybe he's not allowed to hunt large game. He's not allowed in the king's forest to take down a deer, but he can hunt small game with his blunted arrows. And he's clearly a very active individual. Maybe his clothes are patched a little bit, so we know again he doesn't have much money. And by learning about one person and then another and another and another, you get to kind of get a feel for the whole region. You can say there's a lot of fur trappers in Ostland. There's a lot of Kislevite heritage in Ostland. There's a lot of poor people in Ostland. And you get the sense, okay, Ostland is all about the forest. It's about fur trapping and hunting. It's about foraging and gathering herbs in the forest. It's really important to this region. It defines this region. So by learning about one person, you've learned a little bit about the whole region, right? Every faction, every region is made up of people. Focus on those people, and the factions and the regions will kind of reveal themselves without you having to exposit overtly. Show, don't tell. So you can show them, and then you don't have to tell them about Ostland because they've seen it. So they've learned it from themselves, and they'll remember it better that way. So that's my little ramble on describing characters, why it's important. I'd love to hear what you think. If you have any tips or tricks, and I've got other videos. I got my visualize and describe video, just talking about how I generate the description. But I wanted to do a video on why it's important to do a description for a character. So again, leave any of your comments below. If you've seen too much description, tell me why. If you've seen too little, tell me why. Educate me, educate everyone who's watching, so that they can do a better job in the future. And until I see you again, good day and good gaming.